Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another discussion video. So there's one more aspect of the rebranding that I wanted to talk about. I've talked plenty about what I think of the rebranding itself, but this discussion I wanted to talk about more of the implications of it regarding when The Sims 5 could eventually happen, because I'm sure eventually it has to. We got The Sims 1, and then we eventually got The Sims 2, and then The Sims 3, and then The Sims 4. So I highly doubt they're just going to completely end the Sims series on The Sims 4. But with the rebranding, I think this has extended The Sims 4's lifespan beyond what I was initially predicting, because for a while, SimGuru Grant was saying that, oh, we have about 3 years of content planned out. And now that The Sims 4 is approaching its 5th anniversary and just got this rebranding now, I think it could easily be more than that. I just want to replay a clip from the July Maxis Monthly, where SimGuru Lindsay is talking about the rebranding update to give a little bit more context to this discussion.
And really what it represents is our commitment to this game, to The Sims, to you, our passionate players, that this game isn't going anywhere and we love it and we're excited about it. And even approaching our 5th anniversary, we wanted to give it a chance to kind of have some new life and new energy. You'll see a lot of the same colors, right? We're still playing with the blues, we're still playing with the greens, but we're also adding new patterns and new elements that we can play with to really give us a new language of visuals for trailers and images and anything that we might be talking about with The Sims.
So with SimGuru Lindsay mentioning things like new visual language for upcoming promotions, for future DLC for The Sims 4, as well as saying that the game is not going anywhere, it really does give off this vibe to me that The Sims 4 is going to still stick around for a long time. And before I get any further into this, I do want to make something really clear. I do not hate The Sims 4. As much as I criticize it, I still enjoy playing the game. Even though, yes, it absolutely had a very rough start. But now, almost 5 years later, I feel like the game has come quite a distance, even though there's still a lot more that I think could be added in, and there's still things where I'm like, really? We still don't have things like body hair, or the turn-ons and turn-offs, or cars yet? But yeah, overall, I still like The Sims 4, even though I do complain about it a lot. But I did want to bring up this discussion because I think The Sims 4 could stick around for quite a bit longer than 3 more years. And that does concern me, because even though I don't mind The Sims 4 sticking around for a little bit longer, if it did stick around for 5 years without The Sims 5 coming out, I think that's too long. I think that's too long. And I think this also pushes out a possible announcement for The Sims 5 farther, because I don't think it would make sense for them to do this rebranding for The Sims 4 this year and then already announce The Sims 5 next year, because I was thinking, especially since the Sims franchise will be turning 20 next year, I thought it would make so much sense for The Sims 5 to be the thing to celebrate that milestone, but that really makes me second guess it with the whole rebranding thing. Though I was still thinking the actual release date of The Sims 5 would be a few years out, because, I mean, it does take a while to develop a whole new base game compared to an expansion pack, and I think they really should announce The Sims 5 a bit farther in advance so they can get more feedback from the players, because they really need to get The Sims 5 right. Because if they don't, I will be actually extremely worried that The Sims 5 would be the last iteration of the Sims franchise before it just dies off forever due to horrible reception, just like with SimCity back in 2013. Especially since Paralives is also a game that's in development and could potentially give The Sims a lot of competition if Paralives delivers on all of its promises. The big difference between SimCity and The Sims, though, is that SimCity was kinda idle for a while before the 2013 reboot came out, because there was SimCity Societies, but it was also not received very well, and there was just a long pause, and then the game came out, and yeah, horrible reception. But The Sims has been going pretty consistently, so it's not like they did The Sims 3 for a while and then ended it and then waited a decade before The Sims 4 came out. No, it's not like that at all. Plus, The Sims is still very popular despite the backlash. So I think that's how The Sims has still lasted this long, even though The Sims 4 has had a pretty negative reception too. Now, another thing that I want to make clear is that I do not think a Sims 5 would solve everyone's problems. I still think it will have some pretty big flaws to it, just not the same as The Sims 4 or any previous Sims game. I still remember when The Sims 3 was the latest thing, and there was a lot of speculation and people hoping that The Sims 4 could be something like The Sims 2, but modernized, and well, I guess in terms of graphics it kind of worked out that way, but not for the rest of the game. I don't think any Sims game will top The Sims 2 in terms of balance of polish and deep gameplay. But I still think The Sims 5 could potentially steer The Sims in the right direction again. I really feel like The Sims has gone downhill overall ever since The Sims 3. And then I think The Sims 4 just helped continue that. But this video isn't me trying to whine and say, oh, The Sims 5 is not getting here fast enough because I think it could potentially fix the Sims franchise. There's another aspect to it. I think The Sims 4 could be just dragged out too long if it does last 5 more years. You know how some shows they wear out their welcome, like they're really great at first for the first few seasons and then they just fall off in quality? I mean, a lot of people say that about The Simpsons. I know there's more to the downfall of The Simpsons than it just going on too long and recycling too many of its storylines in slightly different ways, but I do think this could potentially become a problem with The Sims 4, because at the time of making this video, pretty much all of the predictable ideas have been done for expansion packs, except University, and I guess farming as well. And I feel like, what could they really do for the next 5 years? Sure, there's some things that they haven't done, but I feel like at this point, it's really hard for me to think of ideas that are justified to do as full-on expansion packs, especially if they continue pumping out 2 every year. I think I could actually think of more game packs potentially than expansion packs. While I don't mind them innovating and doing new stuff once in a while, I just really hope that we don't get more packs like Strangerville and Moschino, where the reaction just ends up being, who asked for this? Really? Who asked for it? I'm not saying that packs that do something different are guaranteed to fail. I mean, Parenthood really took a different angle in comparison to another family-oriented pack from a past Sims game, The Sims 3 Generations, but Parenthood was really greeted with a lot of approval from the community, even though I still think there's a lot of other things they could do in regards to family gameplay in The Sims 4. It's like, oh, they did something different, but it actually was warmly received since it did touch upon an aspect of the game that many people, including myself, felt really needed some improvement and expansion. And I do worry that they might try to fill time with packs that expand on packs that have already come out, or saturate the market with a lot of stuff packs again, especially now that they are coming back. I don't want another year like 2016 where almost every single paid DLC that came out for the game that year was a stuff pack. There was only one game pack, Dine Out, and one expansion pack, City Living. And yeah, even those 2 packs disappointed a lot of people for various reasons. There is one possibility that I haven't touched upon in this video yet, that The Sims 4 and The Sims 5 could have some overlap, because what we've come to expect is that the previous Sims game completely ends maybe a year or so before the next base game comes out. But maybe they could do something different this time around, because I know the Sim Gurus have said a lot in the past that The Sims 4's development is not being approached the same way as the previous games, and I would be surprised if The Sims 5 takes a similar direction, and maybe they could do something different where The Sims 4 is aimed at people with lower end computers, while The Sims 5 is maybe like closer to a more open world game and pushes the limits a little bit farther. So they could have both those games going at the same time for at least a little bit, so they can still appeal to two different audiences. Though maybe not too long though, like a year, or I don't know if I even want to say 2 years, but maybe a year or so that more resources could be put onto The Sims 5 and not have too much taken away from that by having some of the sim gurus and just dev team in general working on The Sims 4 still. And while I do have my doubts that EA could pull off this sort of move decently, it could actually be the best choice in the end. Because yes, The Sims 4 is not a cheap game, especially when you do buy all of the packs religiously. So then if you do have The Sims 5 going for a little bit at the same time as The Sims 4 still getting some new content, then you could still use that time to really build The Sims 5 and have some cool packs coming out that could really convince some people who are playing The Sims 4 to jump over to The Sims 5, rather than them feeling forced to make the switch straight away. Of course, this solution would not automatically solve all the concerns that I have about the future of the DLC for The Sims 4, but at least The Sims 5 would still be there regardless. Then we'd still have another choice. I have been playing since The Sims 1, so I know what it's like to go from that transition of a game that is established and has a lot of content to a new base game that doesn't have as much as the previous game from the outset. So it is a little annoying, yes, even when the game can be really good from the beginning. Like, I will admit, I actually didn't jump on The Sims 2 right away. I actually waited until a bit after the Nightlife expansion pack came out, and that really sold me on The Sims 2 with the cars and the restaurants and just all the stuff in that pack. And with Open for Business being around the corner at the time, that also helped because that looked like the really cool and innovative expansion that The Sims 1 hadn't done before. And yeah, sure enough, Open for Business I think is still one of the best expansion packs in the entire franchise to this day. And with the whole process of eventually having to start over again, I think of The Sims in a similar way to video game consoles. Because imagine if we were still stuck with the Nintendo system, the original Nintendo system, the NES, and we just never got platforms like the Nintendo 64, or the GameCube, or the Wii, or the Switch. Like, wow, we'd still be really stagnant. And that's how I feel about The Sims 2, where it's just like, The Sims, each base game is a platform, and then you build upon it with more games. And even though it sucks to have to start over again, eventually you do have to. And then you can innovate and do things that weren't technically feasible on that previous platform. So while I'm not ready for The Sims 5 to come out right this minute, I accept that eventually The Sims 5 will be necessary in order to keep continuing to innovate the Sims franchise and do really cool new things that wouldn't be possible with the base platform of The Sims 4. And even bring back some stuff that maybe we were missing in the previous titles that they couldn't do in The Sims 4. And that pretty much brings me to the end of this discussion. A big thank you if you managed to make it this far. I was not expecting to be airing my concerns about the future of the Sims franchise for this long, but there were definitely multiple aspects that I needed to touch upon, and I really just need to talk about this at length rather than just in the character limits of Twitter. So there is a chance I could be wrong about all this stuff too. Maybe The Sims 5 is coming in 3 years or less, and the rebranding is just for those last couple of years or so, but I highly doubt it. I really doubt that they would go to the effort of the rebranding just for it to be basically made useless with what would effectively be another rebranding with a new entry in the Sims franchise. So let me know what you think. Do you think The Sims 5 could still potentially be here pretty soon? Or do you think The Sims 4 could be going on for another half decade or so? Or do you think there might be potential overlap between the two? And be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my latest content from The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching! Oh boy, whichever way we go into the future, just try not to choke on any butterflies.